Way to work. That's called that motherfucker.
Studio bound on the way to Nashville. Oh, Laverne.
Copyright, my bad.
You saw what? Oh yeah, turn that shit off, man.
Get you demonetized.
We're on the way to studio. It's called the Record Shop in Laverne, Tennessee. It's beautiful as fuck outside today. It's like, what is it, like 85?
Like, that's very common to see some empty space in the beginning, kind of thing. Cool. So again, always like to double check. Cool. I can hear that it's lined up. I can see it's lined up. Right? Like I can see the snare hit on the 3 there, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So good to double check. So now we know it's lined up on the grid. We're good to go. So the reason, and when we get some vocal tracks pulled up, I'll show you kind of how to fly stuff around. That's why things need to be lined up so that when you go to move it over, you know it starts right on where it's supposed to, and you're not trying to shift stuff around because that can become a nightmare, as I'm sure you experienced. Okay. So let's see. The next thing we would want to find out is the key of the song. If they maybe they're going to want to use auto-tune or something like that. There's some great apps out, like AutoTune makes a free app that's called AutoKey on your phone that you can download, and it's free, and it's actually really pretty accurate. So let's take a listen here.
Hey Glenn, get the go.
So this is saying C minor or the relative key of E flat major. So that's like, I usually run this 2 times just to make sure it gives you the same result every time. But it's pretty accurate. So that's the key I would put auto-tune in. And if you want, we can go over some basics of auto-tune as well tonight if you'd like. Cool. So then if I had auto-tune, I'd pull up a copy of auto-tune on here and I would set the key of that to what AutoKey found the key to be. And then you can adjust settings from there. So all of that I like to do before my artist is ever even here. Do you have any questions with that or anything?
No.
Okay. So yeah, man, I would say what's probably the most beneficial to get really good at doing that is find like 10 songs that you don't know the tempo of. And then tap the tempo out on your phone. We're in Pro Tools. And then you want to do the tab to transients. Cut at the first transient, like where the kick starts. Move it, make sure you're in grid mode to a new beat, to a new bar. Doesn't matter what it is. And then listen through and check. If the click's not lining up, you're probably a little off on your tempo. Maybe you need to come down by 1 or 2 beats or up. If it's a little fast, you need to, if the click's a little fast, that means your tempo's a little too fast, kind of thing. If you're having a hard time with that, you can start with a beat that you do know the tempo of, but still practice those same steps till you get more familiar with it. Because a lot of times you're going to work with an artist who wants to do 2 or 3 songs in a session. That's pretty common. And they're going to send you beats as they go through the session, right? So you're going to have to do this in the middle of a session when you get to a new song. So really, I mean, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but it's really important that you can be able to do this quickly. Cool. So now that's good. So let's talk about markers real quick here. So markers are really helpful. Have you used those at all in Pro Tools?
No.
Okay. So with the numeric keypad, the enter key is the quick key to make a new marker. If you don't have that, you can always come up here to where it says markers and hit the plus. Wherever your cursor is, or if you select a clip, it's automatically going to go at the beginning of that clip. So I like to make markers along the way. It helps keep things organized. Like, you can make notes about whatever helps you as an engineer. It's totally personal preference. I label every section of a song, the intro, the hook, the verse 1, hook 2, verse 3, this is the bridge, etc. Because there's going to be times where the artist is like, hey, take me to verse 2. And you need the markers. Like, you'll be able to see once you've done it enough where verse 2 is, you can see the pattern of the waveforms. But anything you can do to make your job more efficient and make you more effective is going to make you better overall. So I like to make markers of everything along the way, including the start of the session, which typically starts at the beginning of the beat. So we can hit make new marker. It's going to ask you what you want to label it. I'm going to label this start. All these other settings don't need to really worry about too much right now. We can get more in depth in that a little later on. Go ahead and hit start. So now we got a marker there, right? You can.
According to you, put that all the way to the left, or you just kind of have it like
No,
that?
I leave it exactly
Really?
like that.
Okay.
Yep. Because if I were to move that right now, it's going to get off the grid. Right? See how it's not lined up now? Now it's off from the click.
Interesting.
So you can move it back if you want, but you just have to make sure that, like, if we wanted to move this back, let's say I could go another bar. It's going to get off again though if I move it.
Well,
So that's
why? Because
why what?
why would it?
Why does it get off? Because see this little tail at the beginning here? It's moving everything. It's moving the start of the
dead space
clip.
in the beginning.
Yeah, so it's moving. You're in grid mode, so it's moving the entire clip only by grid lines right now. So that little space at the beginning isn't correlating to where the start of how we lined up the beat was.
So would you just cut that off?
If you wanted to, you could. So we'd go out of grid mode. We'd go into slip mode. We could tab to the next transient, and that'll put us right at the beginning. I hit B to split, and I could delete that.
Okay.
And now I can move this around, and it should. Oh, let me go back into grid mode. Ideally, it would still line up. So now it's lined up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little off still. So like that would probably not cause a problem for the first half of the song, but I can tell you by near the end, see how it's off. Yeah. So it's just those fine little attentions to detail, man. And then we can select exactly what we wanted to get rid of. I'm gonna hit apply. Now we just got rid of all that time.
Whoa.
And it's still lined up to the.
I just feel like that space would bother me.
Oh, absolutely,
because,
yeah.
You know, and I felt.
No, for sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I've never seen that before, so I don't know. Maybe I should try that out too.
I
space.
would try to get you. Yeah, there's no intro. If they're right in, how are they going to know to come in on time, and then they're going to be rushed on the catch up? So in that case, that's why it's really beneficial to have a click. If they're like, hey, I'm going to send you 8 clicks from the top, and then you know to come in. Okay, cool. 2, 3, 4. This is going to be 16.
Right.
So let's say we started here. They hear this. Now I'm in. Yo, what's up? Kind of thing, right? So I would try to get used to seeing that a little bit. I know it's weird at first, but later on, it's going to come in handy later on if bands like. If they're all in together, if they need what's called pre-roll, so that's pre-roll, right? And a lot of artists, it's pretty common that they're going to want some kind of pre-roll. Ever seen the old videos of like the telephone operators where they had to patch you through? That's where this all came from. That's where the term patch mate comes from. They actually had to physically patch you through to call your friend. It's pretty crazy. So for example, like we have tie lines. These are all out in the main room where we plug the microphones into, going into our different mic preamps, compressors, that kind of stuff. So depending on what kind of gear we want to go through, we would make the different patch connections from point to point, ultimately going into our converters, which is the mothership down at the bottom. The mothership's what goes into Pro Tools, and that's how we convert. This is what converts the analog signal into digital and allows us to get into the software.
Okay. So that's basically the, what is that thing called? So what is that thing over there? That's just the controller.
This is the monitor controller for the main room here. It's got some different features, and depending on how you have the room set up, it controls the speakers, it controls the overall control room level. That's what the big knob is. It's got a mono switch. If you had a Dolby Atmos setup, you can control like which monitors you're listening to. So like some studios, they have like smaller like reference speakers or a couple different sets of monitors. You'd be able to switch through those. We got a little bit going on.
The girl of my dreams, she bad, she clean, a real life queen, never teen, she hella deep, yeah, she practice what she preach.
So notice my tempo, 143, 4/4.
Yeah, the
I got
pussy be dripping like water.
metronome turned on. right? Tab to transients is turned on. Again, I pretty much always leave that on. Insertion follows playback, we're going to turn that off. And then those other two buttons I showed you, the link, timeline, and edit selection, just always leave those on. It's going to make your life easier. The real reason you would ever turn those off is mostly if you're editing like videos and stuff and you need to have your cursor be somewhere else than where you're editing, but it's pretty rare to see cases like that. So a couple things to look at. See how this, like all three of these sections are more or less identical? That's the hook, right? See my markers up here? Got one at start, I've got one at the end, and then I got a bunch of markers in between. I make markers along the way of everything. As soon as that hook starts, I'm making a marker. As soon as the verse starts, I'm making a marker. You can make, you can make markers along the way. Like these other ones, let's see, what did I write here? I wrote Cartier, probably because she has a line in there about Cardi. So that's where I remember we had to do a punch. So for me, you can use the markers to make Notepad is clutch, right? Hit enter, new marker right there. I can name it whatever, test marker, right? Now it's in. I can move it around if I need to, whatever, I can put it wherever. Super, super useful. Like you want to, the more markers you make, the easier it makes your life. Especially when you have an artist who loves to work fast, like rappers love to work fast, right? That's cool. You got to work as fast or as slow as they want you to, right? To keep the momentum of the session going. So anything you can do to make your session more organized and make you more efficient, you got to start trying to instill those habits. To get rid of a marker, you hold the Option key, and let's see, with my cursor right above this here, if I hold Option, see that little minus sign that appeared there? That's how you can get rid of one. So that's good to know as well. We need dinner. Let's see a little better. There we go. Alright, cool. So yeah, markers are huge, man. Really, really helpful. So just to go back for a second to that idea of like moving hooks around, the best way to do that, and this takes some time and some practice, but it'll make you really, really efficient as an engineer, and people will want to work with you. So this was all mapped to the grid before we ever started recording, right? She sent me all these stems. Hey, I got to get my session prepped. My artist is coming in later tonight. I found the tempo, which we went over. I found the key of the song. Sometimes she likes a little bit of auto-tune, so I just go ahead and assume that she might want it at some point. So I do all that before they ever get here. And then I get the track lined up to the grid. We're good to go. So now the big reason we did that is for when she's like, hey, can you can you copy the second hook over? Rather than me trying to guess with all these tracks going on where that's going to go, there's the reason we set everything to the grid is exactly that reason. Let me open these up. So to scroll up and down with your cursor, you use the P and the semicolon key here. That's up and down. See that? Anytime you hold shift, it's going to select everything in between. So like if I wanted to get all these, I'm going to hold shift and scroll all the way down. So now I've got all my tracks selected for the track out. The quick key to make things bigger, the tracks bigger or smaller, is control up and down. See how those tracks are getting bigger now?
Right.
So that's really useful too.
So the P and the semicolon does what?
The P and the semicolon is to move your cursor up and down.
From the tracks?
Well, because our track in selection is linked, that's what, remember that's what that button is up there.
Oh, okay.
So that's the benefit of doing that. So that I can go to the next track. I don't want, if I put my cursor here, I want the track to be selected. That's the way I like to work, and that's what I found is the fastest.
And what is that called?
Link and edit timeline selection. Okay. Yeah, it's these two buttons right up here.
Yeah, I wish I'd known that.
Yeah,
shit,
man. Yeah. Yeah, it's super helpful for sure.
I was like, dude, I can't switch between the track.
Yeah, it's why it's like not why that's even an option. I don't know because it confuses a lot of people.
So how do you make the tracks smaller?
Yeah, so you can. There's a couple ways to do it. The quick key to do it is if my track was selected, is Control up and down. Control up makes it bigger, and then down will make it smaller.
As a whole.
If you wanted to do it to all the tracks, you would just select whatever all the tracks you wanted.
Okay.
So let's say I'm going to go down to that one, and then I'll come up holding shift, so I select everything in between. Whatever is selected now, if I hold control up and down, now it's going to do that to all of them, right?
I felt like you just selected a whole bunch at the same time.
Yes, so to do that, I'll select one track,
Okay.
and then go down to the other one.
The bottom one.
You have the bottom one. Hold Shift. Now it's going to select everything in between. Anytime in Pro Tools that you want to select multiple of something, you need to hold Shift to do it. And then remember, Option in all cases with Pro Tools does to all. So if I wanted to select all the tracks, I would hold Option and I could just click on one of them, and now it just selected everything for me. Same thing in the mix window. It's the same rules apply. Let's say I wanted the kick. I want to come over here. Here's the end of my stems, and I want everything in between. Hold Shift. Now I've got all of that, right? If you wanted to just deselect one of these, let's say, oh, I got the hook in there too, and I don't want that. Command click to just get rid of
Okay,
one
yeah,
thing,
that's-
right? That one's super important too. And then same thing, if I want to deselect all these, the quickest way to do that is hold Option and deselect everything. Let's say I want just a couple of tracks that are spaced out, just hold Command and get what you want.
Yep.
Grab what you want there, right? Okay.